Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today for the Superintendent's Faith-Based Advisory Committee meeting. Everyone has expressed an interest to support the school district and our commitment to high performance, so it certainly is evident by your attendance today. I won't belabor the moment. I will certainly allow the superintendent to come to the platform and formally greet you and set the agenda for today. But again, thank you on behalf of Superintendent Dr. Morrissey J. Beasley. Welcome to the podium.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I am glad you all are here. I asked one of his colleagues, do people treat me right? You know how it is. I tell people for years, I grew up in the ministry around all the pastors and everything. And people think, you know, on Sunday morning, they think that's the work. I mean, no, that's not the work. That's the easy day, isn't it? That's the easy day. It's 24/7. And if they could add more hours to the day, they would, wouldn't they? But I'm glad you all at least take out time. And I know you're very busy, but I appreciate all of you for taking out time to be here on today. Thank you all. Our goal is not to hold you longer than we need to, but we want our time together to be one that's fruitful, because we're in the process of moving our district to higher levels of achievement. And it is so important that we have your support. It's so important that we listen to you all and that we use the information that you provide to us to basically inform decisions that we may need to make to improve our school district. We've got a lot going on relative to community engagement, and it's just the beginning, honestly. It's just the beginning. So what I'd like to do today is, before we actually get into the agenda, I want to make sure we've added some new people since the last time we met to the team. So I want to make sure that you know who these individuals are, and as they come in, they may not all be here today, but I want you to know who they are. You all know Jada Dawkins. She's our Chief Communications Officer. But we've added a new department, Division of Engagement, Governmental Relations, and Partnerships, Mr. Wendell Spiegel. So he's here. Welcome, sir. And he is in the process of really building that department so we can really roll out more engaging activities to engage our community. We also have our new Chief Deputy for Student Support Services and Federal Programs, Dr. Sandra Nunez, has joined the team. We're glad to have her as well. You know, and I have to always make sure you know who this guy is, because if there's a complaint, it's about transportation sometimes. Mr. Harold Walker, our transportation guy, but he does a great job at responding to parents, and we appreciate it. Mr. Kenneth Thompson, Mr. Thompson, they need to see you because he's over all our operations, and just so you'll know, that includes transportation, our construction program, child nutrition services, athletics, and facilities. And so that's Mr. Kenneth Thompson. And I see Mr. Ronnie Joseph over there. He's over our construction SPLOS, director of our SPLOS program. But we appreciate that. Mr. David Smith is one of our finance people. He's representing Mr. Ken Thompson, who's out ill on today. But we're here because we serve our community, and we take this work rather seriously. We believe our community deserves the best, and we're going to give our community the very best, the very best. So with that being stated, the last time we met, it was our first time after I was appointed as superintendent. Look at your neighbor and say, the honeymoon is over. If there ever was one, right? But I tell you this, it's a lot of work, but I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having fun because I'm doing what I love to do. And that's supporting our children. And I feel like the role of the superintendent is so critical to bringing everyone together around a common vision in support of children. And that to me is an honor. I see one of our principals back there, Mr. West of Church Street Elementary School. It's good to see you, sir. We are excited for the work that we're doing. And so what I'd like to do, yes, sir. Someone says, can we open with prayer in this forum? If you want, who asked the question? Okay, then you should be the one that prays, right? That's how I always do my staff. When they come up with a great idea, sounds like that's a good project for you, doesn't it? And so, yes, sir, we don't mind. You want to offer, we appreciate you volunteering to do so.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Since we all got the right mind and we're in the right spirit, just look at somebody and say, the Lord God bless you, even if that's not. Just look at somebody else, not me. Now, our minds on the right hand, let's just say this prayer. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be gathered in this place. Bless this opportunity for us to be representatives of our various faith communities and the school district and its leadership and the superintendent who has taken upon the task to lead this large district toward a base of performance and excellence that will benefit our communities, our children, and our future lives. We just ask for an open mind and a spirit-filled opportunity to last long enough to see this dream come true. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Amen. I see Dr. Smith over there, our deputy superintendent. Y'all know Dr. Smith, but stand and be recognized. Very good. It's good to see everyone. And I believe Dr. Simpson, he's on his way over, our deputy superintendent for school leadership and improvement. So thank you, Pastor, for that prayer. Thank you all again for being here today. But very quickly, what I like to do, the last time we met, it was kind of like our first formal gathering as after being appointed as superintendent. And so what I like to do this time is basically go through the 5 areas of focus that we have established and provide you some idea as to what we're doing to move our district to higher levels of performance. Staff, I see staff giving out a brochure. Many of you probably have already seen that brochure. And then after I give you these 5 areas of focus, I want to basically take us on a quick walk, but a very important walk of the data that we are working to change in our school district. And I will, today during our session, you'll have an opportunity to give us feedback, to share ideas, concerns, etc. But we'll end today with basically a request of you as leaders in our community, faith-based leaders, leading congregations and groups of individuals in our community. Because one thing we understand that we cannot do this work alone. It takes a community effort. It takes a community effort. The school, the faith-based community, the business community, all of us, families, we all have to work together in order to fundamentally change the outcomes in our community. Would you all agree with that? Yes. And so that's really what this is all about. So the 5 areas of focus very quickly, and I'll try not to use education jargon, but the first, the first one is basically about instruction. I don't care where you are. If you expect to improve student achievement, you've got to improve the quality of instruction in every classroom. And so you'll see a big emphasis in every school and every classroom with improving the quality of teaching and learning, removing the variability. I don't want students to go to one teacher and get great instruction, and then next school year they go to a different teacher and they get low levels of what? Instruction. And so this year we've been very intentional on identifying high impact instructional practices, making sure everyone's aware of those practices, and we're supporting those practices, providing staff development in those practices, and we're monitoring and collecting data on those practices because we expect every student to have access to a great teacher. Now, to that end, in support of that, you may know that in the last 5 or so years, we've carried about 250 vacancies throughout the year. Well, this year, you will be pleased to know we're down to 53. Now we've had to be creative, and there's a plus and a minus side to that. Plus is I got some educated people in front of these children teaching. The negative is I'm giving some of them provisional certifications and I got to train them up, which is really a positive thing. But if you understand what's happening in education today, you've got to grow your own. And we're in the Atlanta metro area. It's a very competitive market. They can work in any school district. So we know that our pay is competitive. A Metro RESA study showed that Clayton has one of the higher pay in the metro area. So we know our pay is competitive. We've got to continue to work on ensuring that our performance, and we'll talk about that in a moment, our performance is improving because the teachers are drawn to improving communities. And you know, the first thing you ask people, do you live in the community? Well, you can't expect people to buy properties and homes in our community if they've got to buy into a low-performing school district. Y'all hear me? And so it's all of our work. It's not just the superintendent. I tell people all the time, all of us are recruiting teachers every day. When we, I tell people, parents say, well, things happen at the school and sometimes things just happen. And the first thing they want to do is go to the media. And I'll be quick to tell them, you can do that, that's your right to do that. But just remember, you don't see high-performing communities doing that. You know why? Because they want to draw good teachers to their community. And so how we respond also sends a message to our teachers, doesn't it? It does. It all matters. If they have about, I want to say about 28 districts in the metro area that they can choose from, you better figure out a way to motivate and encourage them to choose your district. And so everything matters, and the faith-based matters. What we promote about our students on television, it all what? It all matters. So we've improved the vacancies. We've got some more work to do. We've got to train up many of these individuals that we have basically provisionally certified, but that's okay. We've got to grow our own. We know that we're dealing with the national shortage of teachers, and being one of the top 100 districts in size in the nation, Clayton being one of those districts, we are dealing with that issue. And so we have some very robust, creative, innovative, grow your own initiatives going forth in our district. And so we're pleased that because of those initiatives, we're down from historically, in the last few years, 250 vacancies down to 53. We've got some work to do again, but we are in a better position. But that helps us with that first goal, because you can't really talk about achieving high levels of performance if you got a lot of students sitting in classrooms without teachers. They gotta have teachers, and then they gotta have good teachers, effective teachers. And so that's goal number one, area of focus number one. Number two is academic and wraparound support. Many of our students are not necessarily reading on grade level, and they're not necessarily doing math on grade level, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Which means that I've got to provide support for them to learn the current grade level content while they also remediate or address those deficits that they have. And that is some complex work. And so we're working as a system to ensure that we have the right resources and tools in place to support what teachers are doing in the classroom. So right now we're looking for an intervention tool in reading and math that we can allow students who may not qualify for certain programs, but we know they have gaps in their reading and math scores or skills. We're working to identify and purchase a tool that they can use at home, they can use before school, after school, during school, if they have some time in their schedule, Saturdays, weekends, etc., that they can basically work on these deficits that they have. So working on their deficits while also the teacher teaching the grade level content, we believe will fundamentally change our outcomes again, and we'll go over that in a minute. Wraparound support is important. There are many things happening to our students outside of the classroom that impacts how they learn in the classroom. And so we've been working to ensure that we know what wraparound supports that we have, that we're using the wraparound supports, and that we're expanding the wraparound supports to ensure that we have no gaps in the services and the support that we provide to our students. It's just important. If there's something going on in their lives, if the family needs some help, our community is a very resource community. There are many resources in this community. And Clayton County has done a phenomenal job of creating wraparound support for the students. But what I've learned in the short time that I've been in the district is there are a lot of resources that are underutilized because people may not know about those resources. So our work is to ensure that we know what the resources are, that we identify those resources, and that we inform people about those resources so they can take full advantage of the resources when they are available. Number three would be, as I mentioned earlier, as we bring in teachers, and the teachers that we currently have, we train them up. We train them in the content. We want our teachers to be very strong in their content. If they're a math teacher, we want them to know math. If they're a science teacher, we want them to know science. If they're a social studies teacher, we want them to know social studies. We want them to be knowledgeable of their content. The law of the lid, John Maxwell always said, the law of the lid, you won't go any higher than the lid. The students will go no higher than the quality of instruction. And if the teacher has a deficit in content knowledge, guess what? The students will have a deficit in what? Content knowledge. And so we're training. And so you'll see a big emphasis on teachers being trained in their content knowledge. And then their pedagogy. That's our little education word for how they teach. Making sure that they do it in a way that the students can learn. That it's not about what's best for them as the adult, that they're not lecturing all day, but they're using strategies to help kids think and do it hands-on, so kids can actually make a connection to the content and apply the content in a novel or a new situation. Think creatively, think critically. We know that our employers want young people that know how to what? Think. And so everything you'll see is grounded in our philosophy and priority of critical thinking, where there are certain elements that we expect teachers to utilize to help kids to think critically. And we're basically, if you will, for the lack of a better word, we're systemizing that across the board in all kinds of areas on all grade levels. And then, of course, leadership capacity. You say, why is that important? Because so goes the leader, so goes the organization. You hire a low-performing superintendent, expect a low-performing what? School district. Now, y'all know y'all can hire a low-performing superintendent. But the point is, the research is clear. Schools have to improve, and they only improve when they have effective school leadership. And so my commitment is to ensure that I'm effective as a superintendent, and that I ensure that everybody who's over a school is also what? Effective. And if they can't be effective, then I have a responsibility to either train them up or move them out. Does that make sense? And we do that with respect and dignity, but we do that because it's the best thing for who? Children. Now, some people like to politicize that. That's my cousin, and I want him to keep the job, but your cousin ain't producing the scores we need to produce. So I'm gonna have to let your cousin go somewhere else. And I tell people, I don't get into politics when it comes to children. You gotta produce. And I told the board, if I can't produce excellence and improvement, then you need to find someone who what? Who can. Because why allow a whole school or a whole community to suffer because of one person? Don't do that. This is bigger than Dr. Beasley. It's bigger than any of us individually. And when we understand that we're here for that purpose, to improve a community, we understand that it's not about us individually. It's about what can we do for our children. Do you all agree with that? The next one is family and community engagement. We've got to have an engaged community. If you go to high-performing districts around this nation, I can assure you that their communities are very much what? Engaged. And so what we've got to do is we've got pockets of engagement, we've got pockets of apathy, we've got pockets of I don't know what it is. But what we've got to do is get everybody, to the extent that we can, engage. Now, we're all in different places in life. We're all in different stations in life. Some of us have one job. Some of us have 2 or 3 jobs. We understand all of that. There are different ways of being engaged. We just need people to be what? Engaged. That means sometimes we've got to be creative. And you'll see that we offer some meetings during the day. We offer some meetings in the evening time. We live stream the meetings in case can't make it. They can maybe participate using their device. We record the meetings and place them online, so when people have opportunity and time, they can listen to the meetings, and they can always send email feedback. That's okay. All of that is considered what? Engagement. We ask that the parents go to Infinite Campus to review students' grades, and while they go to Infinite Campus, all the district announcements are right there. So they don't have to search for district announcements. They're already in Infinite Campus. So when people tell me, I don't know about this event or I don't know about this going on, my question is, are you going to check your child's grades? Because we've made a point. First of all, everybody who has a child in the district should be doing what? Checking grades. Shouldn't they? They should be. If you got a child in K-12 education, or in college too, you ought to be checking what? You ought to be checking grades. So we made it convenient. All the announcements, district-wide announcements, are placed in Infinite Campus because we would expect that parents are going there anyway. And we have seen a tick up, if you will, a large increase of usage with Infinite Campus, which I know parents are checking grades and they're also getting the announcements. And lastly, we're working on our communications, public relations, and marketing. If you don't tell your story, somebody else will make one up for you. And if you expect people to buy properties and come to your churches and come to our school district, then we need to have some positive images going out about Clayton County. Would y'all agree with that? Amen. Listen, nobody is drawn to a losing team. That sounds hard, but it is the truth. Nobody is drawn to a losing community. Nobody is drawn to that. And what we've got to do is, through our educational system, working in collaboration with our businesses and our faith-based community, we've got to make a winning community. It's about changing the entire culture in our community to be one of high performance. Because that's how you change a community. That's how you draw young families or families who are looking, they want their children in good schools. They want their children to be able to go to college or junior college or go to work. Whatever the choice is, the schools are instrumental in creating that culture, that environment that draws families into the community. So those are the 5 areas of focus. And very quickly, we're going to open it up. Let's pass out the data very quickly. I want you all to see one of the challenge that we're dealing with in our school district. And as you listen and as we have a conversation about this data, I want you to think about things that you can do with your influence and your positions to help our community create this culture of high performance in our district. We're not going to say that test scores are everything, but the truth of the matter is, when you play a game, you gotta pay attention to the data, don't you? Football, you look at the number of touchdowns, don't you? Basketball, you look at the number of wins, don't you? You look at all the data. And so I don't think it would be I think it would be disingenuous if we look at data in every other area, but all of a sudden we discount our educational what? Data. The data is very important. And so what I'd like you to do is follow us as we take a look at this data. And then we're going to have some honest conversations about things that we can do and things that you would like to see us do, hopefully, to improve this data. Some of you may have already seen this because some of your faces I've seen in other forums. And so just bear along with us. But I believe this is the first time as the faith-based advisory that we've had this opportunity to share this data. So I've not given you all the data. I've just picked certain pieces of data to have a conversation with on today. So if you will, on page 1 of 6, everybody on page 1 of 6? Let's just start in 3rd grade. Why 3rd grade? Because that's the first grade that they take the state test. So kids go to kindergarten, and you all know kindergarten is optional. Did you all know that in the state of Georgia, kindergarten is optional? Yes. Yes, it is. So imagine them already being behind, and then somebody decides, I don't want them to be in kindergarten. But kindergarten is optional. But then they go to 1st grade and 2nd grade, and then in 3rd grade, they take the state test. So I want us to go to 3rd grade. Is that okay, everybody? So go to 3rd grade. For the first chart is English language arts. That's basically our reading test. Now, there are 4 levels of performance. Everybody follow me. You all see that the columns that have BL, DL, PL, and DS? BL is the beginning level. That's the lowest level. DL is the developing level. That's the second lowest level. PL is the proficient level. That's where you want your students, proficient. And DS is the distinguished column. That's the students who are well above proficient. So I want you to see for 3rd grade, those percents for our district. And you also have the MRESA, which is all the metro districts average, and the state of Georgia. But for Clayton County, where it says district, what percent are in the beginning level in 3rd grade for reading? Everybody see 45%? And what percent are in the DL column? So, did I tell you those are the 2 lowest? Right? So add those 2 numbers up, what you get? 79. So right now in third grade, 79% of our students are performing in the last spring are performing where? In the two lowest columns. Does that make sense? Now I just want you to see, because that means basically 80% of our third graders, they go to third grade, but they're performing on the third grade test below grade level, or not at the level we want them to perform. So if you look at the pink column, it tells you the percent that are proficient, not the pink column, the green column, excuse me. It tells you the percent that are proficient and higher. So third grade is 21%. Do you all see that? Fourth grade, what percent? 27%. Fifth grade, what percent? 23%. Sixth grade, what percent? And let's go to eighth grade. Now that's our percent for our district. Look at our comparison to the average of the districts in the state, in the metro area. Look at the green column for MRESA, the Metro RESA. What's their percent for third grade? 40%. And then what's their percent? Let's just go to eighth grade. 46%. You all see that gap? So we're trailing the average of the metropolitan school districts. And then you can see the data for the state of Georgia. Now the arrows off to your right will share with you our movement from one year to the next. The up arrow means we improve, the down arrow means we decline, the horizontal arrow means basically no change. So that's reading. Let's go to the chart right below it and look at mathematics. Since I started in third grade for reading, let's go to fourth grade for our district for mathematics. What percent in fourth grade are proficient and higher? What's the percent in that green column for fourth grade? 29%. So that means basically 71% are not proficient. Does that make sense? What's the percent in eighth grade? 17%. Now, why is this important for you to know? Because it's time for us to have some serious conversations. First of all, making sure what happens in our classrooms occurs to ensure kids are learning the content. But I think we got to go well beyond that. As I have these conversations with all the different groups, discipline continues to become, discipline is an issue. Now, clearly, the outcomes and discipline are all related, aren't they? And drawing teachers to our community. If you think that a negative image about discipline is going to draw teachers to the community, you are misguided. And so, when I say that recruitment is a community affair, recruitment is a community affair. So what we've got to do, and so discipline, instruction, these are things that we've got to work on. Our kids reading, not just during the school day, but they spend on average about 6 hours of 24 hours at school. So that means the other, 18 hours? They're with other people. We need our young people to be engaged academically. One ask that I have of our faith-based leaders is when we need a Clayton study campaign. When kids get out of school, they need to go home and study. They need to be reading, and we need to get the word out. Parents, all this afternoon playing, and you know what makes a difference? I can tell you, you go to China and you go to Singapore, those kids are studying. You know, we want to compare ourselves, and then we wonder why globally they seem to be getting the jobs. Well, the question is, are we going to help our children be competitive, or are we going to just go status quo? And so one of my asks of you as faith-based is we need to encourage our parents to get our kids off these streets after school and get them inside studying and reading. Yeah, we've got something we need to do during the school day. But there's nothing wrong with doing a little homework. There's nothing wrong with reading a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with doing some math practice problems. There's nothing wrong with focusing on academics. So that's just 3rd through 8th grade. I'm going to skip page 2. You can take this with you. I'm going to skip page 3. I want to go to page 4 and show you how our high school students are doing. Go to the column that has district, and let's just pick 9th grade literature. 9th grade literature, that's a 9th grade English class. We've given you a green column, the percent proficient. For 9th grade literature for this past spring, what percent is proficient? 34%. Which means basically, what percent is not proficient? 66, right? American literature, that's 11th grade for the most part. What percent is proficient? 29. Now let's look at that algebra 1. What percent is proficient? You see that? Geometry, 20. Economics, 37. That's a senior course there. And you can see our comparison to the MRESA average, the Metro RESA average in the state of Georgia. There's a gap, isn't it? So we got work to do. We got work to do. The last page is the grad rate from 2016. We've recently released the grad rates for 2017. So the district has gone up a little bit. We've gone up to 69.6. But we still have some work to do, a whole lot of work to do. The state is about 80.5% in their grad rate. We need to close the gap with the state. We've got some schools, elite at 100%, Stillwell at 98%. Riverdale, how many of you live in the Riverdale area? 3rd highest grad rate in our county at 80%. Some people thought it would be somewhere else. It goes to show you, those kids may act like they don't want to be in school, but they graduate. Leadership makes a difference. We've got some other communities that you think would be higher. And we've had this conversation, and we'll continue to have this conversation. And they're expected to be high. But we're working to address some issues so we can move all of our schools. For the first time, you should know this. You all see in 2016, you had some schools below 50, below 60. For the first time since the state recalculated the grad rate, all of our schools are at least above 60. For the first time. We just got them above 60 for 2017. But if the nation is at 82, or I think it's 82 or 83%, if the nation is at 82 or 83%, surely we can close the gap with the nation. We're a smaller subset of the nation. And so our work, and I'll have Jada send to the Faith Advisory. You may have already received this, the press release on the grad rate that identifies the data, the new data, 2017, and some of the strategies. Not all the strategies that we're using, but it does identify some of the strategies. So we'll send that to you. So, I share the data to help frame the conversation. Our kids are smart. Our kids are intelligent. One of the things that we're working to do is taking away the perception that our kids, they come to school to fail. Our kids do not come to school to fail. And so we're changing this culture of failure. This culture of failure. Now, oddly enough, you don't have this data, but I monitor this data. Oddly enough, the majority of our students on their report cards are making what? Any guesses? A's and B's. So we got the majority of students making A's and B's, but then we've got the majority of our students performing in the 2 lowest categories. It doesn't take a PhD to realize something is wrong. Something is wrong. And so that means there's work for us, those of us who are supporting principals and teachers, to help make sure that we are addressing the level of instruction, rigor, that we're teaching the content, and that our grades actually mean something. That an A actually means an A B actually means a what? A B. And as you know, that is a conversation that will take several years to have in our community. But it's just our reality. It's our reality. But we acknowledge that, but we will not stop there. And that's why those areas of focus are very important. Changing what happens in those classrooms, getting our parents engaged, training our staff, teachers and principals and all others, training them up to be effective in their practice, in their roles that they're in, whether it be instruction or leadership. Our community working together to ensure that we convey high expectations to our students. We expect you to come to school. We expect you to come every day. We expect you to behave yourself. We expect you to go to class and participate in the instructional process. It's really a community culture of high performance that we're working to create. So what I'll do here, I'll pause and I want you to respond, share your thoughts. What I'm asking of you all today as faith-based leaders is to have these conversations with our families. With our families. We need our kids studying. I would say at least Monday through Thursday, turn off those televisions and study, hit those books. Textbooks have been issued. Don't let them tell you they hadn't been. They have been. Some of them, I can take you to a high school today and open up a few lockers at the end of the day, and I can show you textbooks sitting where? In the lockers. You say, well, the teacher didn't give homework. Maybe I'm a little old school, but even if my teacher didn't give homework, I had something to what? Study. I was reading. I was asking questions because I knew a test was coming up at some point in the week. And you say, well, that just, you were a nerd. Listen, we got to change that. Our children have got to understand the nerds are running Google, Amazon, Facebook, SunTrust. Y'all hear what I'm saying? So if it take me being a nerd to run the organization, then nerd will I be. And our children need to understand that. And we as adults have to help create that culture and have that conversation with them. So I'll pause here. Y'all feel free to share.
Have any questions? Raise your hand and I'll come around with the mic.
I want to introduce Dr. Simpson, walked in, our Deputy Superintendent for School Leadership. Many of you know him, but in case you joined us for the first time, he directly supervises schools and principals and the assistant superintendents.
Good morning, my name is Arlene, and my question might sound a little awkward, but I'm very impressed by you, Dr. Beasley, what I've heard. And my question is, when we get started and things are going well and other metro counties might see what's going on in our county and try to petition you to leave us.
You already 3 years out. I'm just in the third month.
So that's my concern.
Well, let me tell you what your board did. Your board asked me, was I coming here for the long term? And if you happen to know me, I'm just not a person to hop and go a lot of different places. That's just not who I am. I believe you go where purpose appoints you to be. And right now, purpose has appointed me to be right here in Clayton. Now, and I'll be honest, but you know what helps? Because I work with superintendents across the nation. You know what helps superintendents remain? When they get support and they can see improvement occurring. And all I'm asking for is support, you all, because it's not about me. It's not about me. You know, this is not politically correct, but I'm gonna get paid regardless.
No, that's right.
So it's gotta be more than pay. And it is for me. I didn't take the job for pay. I took the job because I want to see our community, our students perform at higher levels, because I know what will be afforded to them and by the way of opportunities if we can change the outcomes. So I'm here, and all I would say is just love on me. Treat me right. And I'll be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I love our community. And the board wants me to establish residence, and where my wife and I have been looking, and so we'll be doing residence too in the community. There you go. I hear you. I hear you. But that's a type of pride we need to have. That's why I applaud you. We need that type of pride, because that's what's going to recruit great teachers. And I want you all to know that Dr. Simpson and Dr. Smith and I, we talk about this all the time. Who you have running your school district can help you fix even some of those problems. Because educators know effective educators. And it's no surprise that we normally carry 250 vacancies, but now we're down to 53. Wonder where they're coming from. I won't even tell you that.
Okay, I'm Pastor Kenneth Payton with the Falls Point Ministers Association, and I'm also the pastor of the Living Word Church of God in Christ. I'm looking at the data here from the 3rd grade through the 8th grade, and you said in the right column, the arrow that's going up is increasing. Now, is this increase over a 1-year period?
Yeah, just from 2016 to 2017.
2017.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we anticipate that this current trend is going to continue upward? Are there mechanism or programs in place to?
I wouldn't be a smart superintendent if I told you that I don't anticipate improvement. Yes, sir, but let me tell you why.
Yeah.
And this is important for everyone to understand. Not only are we addressing what's happening in the classroom with our quality of instruction and teaching the standards, but we're also, you see that group, since you have the data, you see that group right there in the DL category, the developing levels, that DL category? That's a large group of students who are almost proficient, and all they need is a little help in some skills. And so earlier I mentioned we're working to purchase an online reading and math intervention, so we can get those kids, a lot of the kids in that low group, the lowest performing group, BL, a lot of those kids are being served in EIP, REP. Those are just our little educational ways of saying some programs that we have in school that they qualify for. But that group in that developing category, that's a large group of students that they're in the current grade, but they're not necessarily getting a lot of additional support beyond tutorials, etc. So what we decided to do, and this is a part of our strategy that we believe will fundamentally flip our data, have more kids proficient. We're working to purchase an ELA and math intervention tool just so we can get those kids practicing and addressing their basic skill deficits while they're also being taught the grade level content by their current teacher, and we believe that that's going to bump them up to that proficient category. So we expect to see higher levels of, or higher percents of students being proficient going forward. So yes, sir, we believe we have the right strategy.
So by this time next year, if we have this same meeting, that DL column would be higher.
I would expect to see the beginning level decrease, and depending on how many kids I move from developing to proficient, the DL column could increase or decrease because the beginning kids will probably go there. Does that make sense? But I gotta move that developing level to that proficient level. Okay.
How, you made a good statement that when they go home, parents need to help them with their homework. Over my years of working with kids, I've noticed that some of the parents cannot comprehend and understand the new math. They don't know the new concepts. And so is there websites, or what can we do as a community to help empower the parents to understand the homework that the child has?
Well, I think that's a good point. And let me say this, sometimes, you know, when I say parents should help with homework, that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to know the content and help kids with the content. Because sometimes the content may be a bit more than we as parents can help with. But create an environment where the kids are at least focusing on what they learned in school today, practicing what they've done, creating that environment. But we have many resources, many of the schools, and I would encourage parents to work with their principals and teachers to identify those resources that may be available to help students understand the content. But there's one underutilized resource that we've been conversing about in our school district, I mentioned it earlier. It's the textbook. I need our parents and our students using the what? I can tell you, all the literacy giants will tell you, if we can get our kids just reading their textbooks, answering the questions in the textbook, you all remember what we did when we were in school. That alone is going to take our literacy to higher levels. So if we could just tell parents, make sure the children are bringing your textbooks home, and the textbooks have the content, the practice problems, and the type questions that we want our students to be able to answer. And so you say, I don't want my child carrying all those books home. For every textbook, we have a digital copy. So there's no reason. You can even pull up the digital copies on your phone. And so if we can get everybody taking full use of, and mind you all, we pay a lot of money for these textbooks. If we can get everybody using these textbooks, and at the same time, we've got some websites out there that are helpful. And the public library. How many of you know Ms. Lett, your countywide director for library, Median County Library? They have homework opportunities. They have free online resources, a free tutorial resource that students can use as well. So we've been working in collaboration with them to ensure that we support the purchase, if necessary, of these resources, but to also get the word out about the availability of these resources. I said earlier, we've got a lot of resources. They're just not being utilized at the level that they could be. And that could have a lot to do with making sure people are aware that those resources are out there. And that's why Ms. Dawkins' department is so important. We are framing it, we're communicating it, we're pushing this out directly to the email addresses of parents, if we have their email address, so they can see this information, trying to get more and more people aware. So yes, we have a responsibility in the classroom to teach up to our students, to ensure instruction is rigorous, that they teach the content at the level that it should be taught. But when the students leave the schoolhouse during the day, we need them going home to these environments where they're studying, they're reading, they're taking full advantage of the resources that they have available to them, whether it be the textbook resource, an online resource. And let me throw this out there. All of our students have access, write this one down, to Khan Academy to study for the ACT and SAT, free. So if you look at our ACT, SAT scores, we've got some opportunities there. But I can tell you, as a student who took the ACT, it wasn't in the classroom. It helped. But when I got home, I had to spend time doing what? Practice problems. And our young people have got to understand, if you don't invest time in yourself, don't expect anybody else to invest resources in you. So we want our young people, we're working on resources. As a matter of fact, I will announce something, but I'll wait till we get it all in writing, because I don't want to mess it up. We're working to get more resources to our students. In my role and working with you all, we're working to do that. But I want our students to take full advantage of the resources that they already have. Many of the principals and schools are doing SAT, ACT preparations. We're working with Atlanta Metro. You know, we've got more kids who want to do dual enrollment, right? In order to do dual enrollment, they got to make a certain score on the AccuPlacer. That's their placement test. We've got a lot of kids who just fall short of the score that they need to participate in dual enrollment at Clayton State and Atlanta Metro and Atlanta Technical. So we're working with these post-secondary colleges to provide some, if you will, some training up sessions to help our kids get over that hurdle so they can participate in dual enrollment. we're working diligently and aggressively to address those needs. But I do say this, I need my students to do what students do. I need them to take full advantage of these resources. Go home, practice, log into Khan Academy. It's one thing to have it, it's another thing to what? Use it.
I appreciate you, Brother Superintendent. I just want to raise an observation and see if this will help us, or at least help the church that I'm at, near the school that we're at. You know, we typically have children in church, during church, and we have children stand up and read, sometimes even parents. And what we're finding is from the elementary, first, second, third grade level, as their data shows, is that that's a very difficult thing for them to do. We also have parents of those children that are having difficulties with literacy themselves. So it's not just the kid, it's the family unit. And when we're starting with second, third, first, we know that unless someone has worked with them on some financial management related stuff, that those children are not coming out every fourth or fifth year, they're coming out one right after the other. So the problem with the academics, the problem with literacy is compounded in the household. And I noticed that we know this, and I know you know this, but the one word that's missing here is poverty. That's affected poverty. And I may not be.
Poverty.
Yes, sir, thank you. Help me out here. Because we know that, at least in the area that I'm in, I know that's having an impact. And my question is that there is at least one model I'm aware of that can deal with the first, second, and third graders, and that was the Harlem Children's Children's College, where they worked with parents to do all the things necessary early on so that they could build those bridges for them to go further. Next observation, and I'm curious, is for us to go back to the church, if we had a handout that hit your top 5 points to say, parents, here's what we're hearing from the superintendent, here's what we're going to do, and here's what we would like to do. And the third thing, along with that, is if there's a way for us to figure out some type of networking with the schools that are close to us, where those churches that are willing to participate are willing to either create homework environments, family support environments around academic skills learning, or even something that will boost reading for the elementary age kids based on your data. I think, at least in my faith community, I think we'll be pretty interested in trying to do that. Now, we're near Lovejoy High School and Middle School, and of course all the other elementary schools around. And along that Madonna corridor, there's at least 4 or 5 of us as churches. And I'm not sure about everybody else, but I can at least speak for the church that I attend, that those doors can be open during the day, after school, to do some support around some of the things you're talking about.
Well, if I may start with the last thing first, I think it would be great if, as a community, we can all agree that from, let's say, from 3 to 7 o'clock, that we're going to use our churches and our available spaces for kids to focus on doing homework. I think it would be powerful if we all got on the same page as a community and did that. And so your congregation may utilize your resource, or people in that community that feed into that are in your nearby area, they could utilize the resources that you all have. That would take volunteers, clearly. But I think it would send a great message to our community that we want our students to have time and space to take full advantage of these resources that are available, whether they are people resources, adults who can help them with reading and math, or just time to sit there and read, or to do math problems, or to answer a few questions based upon their reading. Just time to do that. And I think if we did that as a community, fundamentally, I think that we'll see more of our students participating, because it will now be a community expectation. Now, I'm going to go to your first part of your comment about poverty. I'll say this. Poverty has an impact on children. But I think that it's the resilience and the response to poverty that we've got to work on. Many of us come from poor situations, but our parents responded differently. Y'all hear? And so what we've got to do is help our families You know, sometimes poverty is just temporary. A bad situation happens. It's all in how you respond. What you believe and how you respond. But you made a point about young people coming to Sunday school, and I'll just tell you, I remember my Sunday school teacher, Miss Mother Strong, God rest her soul. Y'all remember the Sunday school books we used to get?
Come on, come on.
I didn't realize then, but she was probably one of the best literacy teachers in the community. Because she would have, it would always be a story, right? Then you have to summarize the story. And she'd make us do what? Summarize. She'd make us underline who the main characters were. She'd make us figure out what the moral of the story was. She'd make you go through and circle words that you didn't know how to pronounce so we could figure out how to pronounce them. Or you could discuss the meaning of the word. She was teaching literacy. And let me tell you all don't know this about me, but I used to always read a grade level below until I got 7th grade and I started going to Mother Strong's Sunday school class. And I took a test that year. After a year in her class, I went from 1 grade level below in the 7th grade to being reading on the 12th grade level. Because I really believe it had a lot to do with the strategies that she was using. In addition to what my teachers were doing, it really helped. And so I think there's an opportunity there to, even in the community, to expand literacy. There's nothing wrong with providing resources for kids to read and working with adults to use those strategies that we encourage teachers to use every day in our classrooms.
Well, totally agree. I found out after I left New Salem Berkeley Baptist Church in Tampa, Florida, that I was reading at a better level than most, but it wasn't because of the school I went to, it was because of Sunday school, Baptist Training Union, and all those efforts where they say read this verse and interpret it to everybody. I think it would be good if we can capture the kind of things they're saying right now in some form of a handout.
Yes, sir. I just made a note of that.
Especially the anecdotal things that have to do with your experience, whether it's your story and with church, as a way of kind of throwing it out there to folks so that as we deal with our own Sunday schools, Bible studies and everything, we have a blueprint that we can use.
Yes, sir.
And tap into some way.
Yes, sir.
And then the other part is, again, without knowing what the message is to our high school superintendents or middle school or elementary school, at some point being able to talk about strategies and ways that we can work together to support them, how we can best do that, maybe the protocols that are necessary so that parents or teachers and parents know that if that kid is going to that church, we're not trying to indoctrinate them, we're just basically supporting around academic support so that we can kind of either have an understanding around that to just encourage the kind of support you're asking for.
And this is what we have. Raise your hand, pastors, if your church is already partnering with one of the schools in the district. And so if your church is not, I want you to get with Mr. Spiva or Jada here so we can connect you to the schools that basically you can partner with. We've been doing these faith-based partnerships for a little over a year now, would you all say? And the schools and the churches are actually partnering. And so I encourage you, if your church, your faith-based organization is willing to partner with the school, we've got 62 schools for you to choose from. And I think it's really about the relationship. Let's say you partner with a school and you open up a homework center. It's really about working with that principal and that community and that PTA to make sure you all share. This is a resource available. And find a way to incentivize it. Draw, motivate kids. You know, feeding them helps. Donuts, they help. But just find a way and encourage more of our students. But you know, building a relationship with students before they need to know before they know anything about your beliefs, just listening and having a conversation with them, letting them know that you care. It goes a long way.
Good afternoon. I just have 3 areas that I'd like to shine some light on, and one of them was the gentleman over in the blue shirt said something about resources for adults who need to learn something about some of the educational outcomes of the children who don't know how to do math or reading or anything. At all the schools that I know of, and especially the middle school, we have what we call the parent liaisons. They are very useful in helping the parents get to learn a lot about the different maths and language art concepts and everything, and that's a good tool. Another thing that I was happy to hear about, Dr. Beasley said that he's going to train and teach all of our teachers in their content areas. That has been a problem with a lot of the teachers around the area. Even though most of the teachers know different areas, some of them are teaching out of their content area. And that is going to be a good tool to let them teach language arts or math or whichever one that's their total content area. That's going to help the kids tremendously. Another thing that I heard was the dual enrollment. Clayton County do have some good students that have above average grade point averages. I know of one right now at Mundy's Mill with a 3.8 and is doing a dual enrollment at Clayton State University. So all her preliminaries will be done this year, and she is a part of their volleyball team. So all she has to go back to do is practice her volleyball, and she's really good at that. That gives her the opportunity to be to get a scholarship in athletic department as well as what? Academics. We're hoping for all academics and not just the athletic department. However, all these auxiliaries and things are for us to use, and we should utilize them. They're in the schools. Just check on the schools and find out about it.
Pastor Newell, coming to you.
Can I say this relative to, just so everyone will know, our teachers are not allowed to teach out of the content field. And so all of our teachers are teaching in the content field. But as you all know, sometimes just because you have a degree in a particular area, that doesn't mean that you've taught that area. And you've got to have a deeper level of knowledge. And you've got to know how to use strategies to actually teach your content. And that's really our work. And that's what we're engaged in doing.
Good morning. I'm Pastor Tate, pastor of Greater Purpose Ministries, and also a member of Clayton County Association of Ministries. I've lived through a whole lot of superintendents in Clayton County. I've been here over 30 years. But at the same time, I'm very excited about you being a part of Clayton County schools. At the same time, we have partnerships with some schools, but what we're finding in some of the cities, there's great relationships between the churches and the schools. But in other cities or communities, there's an issue. It's not, the information is not getting to the principals concerning the partnership. And it's really hard to kind of break that barrier to get to the principal. And I understand the principals are very busy. But at the same time, for us to be more effective, because we as churches, we have great resources, but oftentimes we're not able to get them to the schools. So I guess what I want to get clarified, are we to be more focused on our congregations and letting them know and assisting them in trying to get their children more educated or more involved? Or are we to connect more with the schools? And if that's what we're supposed to do, I want to know if it's possible that some type of information can be directed directly to the principals to let them know that we as a church community want to get involved with the schools. And to the most part, our first contact in order to get into the schools to have any type of relationship is through the principal. And I understand we have parent liaisons, but I've been working with the schools for over 30 years. But a lot of times we can't get or do what we need to do through the parent liaison. and it's hard to get to the principal unless the principal are aware of what we're doing and give that directive to the parent liaisons. So I guess my question is, how or can we get some type of direct information from you or your department to the principals?
Thank you. And I'll say your first question was, should you be doing one or the other? You should be doing both. Encouraging your congregation to navigate and take full advantage and be a participant in what's happening at the schools. And at the same time, we want you as the leaders of your congregations to build rapport and a relationship and a partnership with our principals. And so, Mr. Spieber, raise your hand. You've got Jada, you've got Dr. Simpson over schools. There should be no apprehension about principals meeting with you to engage to figure out how you can support that school and partner with that school. So if you've got to leverage the use of us as resources to break that barrier as you described it, then use us as a resource to break that barrier. But it's the expectation of this administration that we are partnering with our schools and that we're engaging our families and our communities in robust ways in all of our schools. And so use us to help break any barriers that you may find, okay? So that means we're counting on you to communicate those barriers with us. If you find a barrier, please don't sit there. Let us know so we can help break that barrier. That may be just informing someone of the expectation or reminding them of the expectation or showing them how it can be done.
Jared Newlove, pastor of Antioch Baptist Church. Just two questions regarding the idea of a homework center. One, if we were able to do that, you mentioned one of the resources available to parents is that textbooks have been digitized. Would that be something that would be available to us as volunteers if we were to open up a homework center as a church? And then the other question I had, I blanked on, so let's go with one question.
The availability of the digital textbooks, I'd have to check to see exactly how those books could be available. They may be on the website, but we'd have to work to see how we would have to do that just to make them available. I don't see why that would be an issue because we've purchased those resources, so we just have to figure out using the technology, how do we make those resources available to the homework centers?
I remember my second question, and that was in regards to having a homework center. Would either the communications department, Jada's department, or the individual schools, would they be able to let the parents know that we have that homework center, or would that be just up to us to get the word out?
We probably could do a combination of things. If we've got many organizations that are doing homework centers, we can create a document that has all the listed homework centers on there and encourage our parents to take full advantage of that. And so I think, of course, there would be things that you would do as a pastor to get the word out at the congregation, but I think we could do our part by getting the word to all of our parents that these are faith-based organizations that have availed their facilities for homework centers at these times and locations. Take full advantage of these resources. So I think that's a combination of things, of strategies that we can implement. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Superintendent.
Good morning, Bishop.
A couple of things on this. First of all, I'm Bishop J. Dukes, pastor of Community Fellowship Christians, and also Director of Education for the ACMCC, which is one of our faith-based organizations. I would love to, a few things I've listened to. Number one, there is already some things in place for those of you that want to be part of supporting and partnering with the schools. We don't have to reinvent this. If you would look, the Forest Park Association has a great program. We also at ACMC have that. We welcome anybody that wants to come and see what we're doing with that. We would welcome you. We would also, if you are a part or a pastor or part of the church community, we would invite you to look at any of the organizations and maybe become partners with us so that we don't have to reinvent this wheel. So I believe that can happen also. Also, I love the part about pushing our students in the churches to do homework. So maybe, Dr. Superintendent, I would also piggyback on the fact that if we can get that bulletin from you, the 5 things that you want, and maybe like for your Christmas list, what you want to see us do, that we can all become consistent in all saying the same things. We'll get that done. I love the fact about bringing textbooks home. Sometimes we, these kids and our young folks, they have to have certain strategies in place. Maybe we can come up with a campaign that says something like, you learn how to text message, now let's learn how to text book.
Okay.
We got to put something in there.
You got to copyright that.
That's where it's going to come from.
You might want to copyright that one.
You got a degree in marketing, Bishop. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That's what's going to have to happen. And then there are already, I heard something about the principals. There are already, we have that relationship with the principals. We've had meetings with them. I need you to hear that the principals already, I work with 2 schools, our churches work with 2 schools that we have Mundy's Mill Middle and Point South Middle. And you can call them at any time. There's not been one time I've called a principal and I couldn't talk to them. Not one time. So I want to thank you for that, and we need to hear that, because sometimes we jump on what we don't see happening, but we don't tell about what we do see happening. I can go to any school, I walk in, they welcome me. I just was with 50 young men at Mundy's Mill. It was awesome. And sometimes it's not, you don't go in there preaching to them. You go in there and just, the biggest thing they want to hear about, well, how was it when you were in school? I said, well, me and Moses were real good friends, amen. we knew each other well. And so they like that. They just want to build a relationship. Because how many know that, I say it all the time like this, that God moves at the speed of relationship, but we can get our students to move at the speed of relationships too. So we got to do things like that. I'm running really fast. The principal, we got that. I'm concerned about the morale of the teachers. I know we're doing a lot to get our students involved in certain things. I want to make sure that we're embracing our teaching community. I know this, that if you want to really build good schools, I went to a very, very good elementary school, very, very good high school, but one of the things I was able to recognize was in that teachers community, they were close-knit. They were pushing to see their school being the best. I would love to see our county being seeing and pushing their teachers to say, hey, we're in the best county. I'm holding on to what you said, that it's going to get to the place, if we just push on what Clayton County has available, I'm going to say it, Clayton, a compound word, clay and ton. Clay is something we can mold, ton is how much we got of it. And it's going to be that these surrounding counties are going to want to get their children over here. It's going to happen. But we got to put some certain things that are strategic for us to do so. We got to push our students, we know that, but we got to also embrace our teachers. And the principal, the superintendent just said love on him a little bit. So we'll love on him some more, because he's doing a great job, but he's got a great task ahead of him too. And not only you, but your supportive staff, your superintendent, your deputy superintendents, your staff, we want to appreciate all of them. I give honor to our president of the ACMCC and that of Dr. Wesley Green. He is pushing us. It's our commitment with the ACMCC to let you know that we're with you. And whatever you need, if you ask, we're going to be like Christ in this, asking it shall be answered. And seeking you shall find.
Sir.
Knock, and we might come to the door. Praise the Lord, amen. It's going to be all right.
Bishop, I'll just respond to the teacher morale issue. One thing we've implemented this year, we held our first employee mixer at Lee Street Park on September 29th, I believe it was. And it was one of our efforts to really show appreciation to our employees. And we're turning that culture around, creating that culture of community, that culture of high performance. It was well attended. We had over 3,000 employees that just say they were coming. That's over 50% of the employees who are on the internet or who has an email address. And they came out, they trickled in and out throughout the entire day. It was a wonderful event. And we want to do more like that. And I encourage, if you all want to partner with us, sometimes it's not the $100,000 donation. Sometimes it's a $1,000 donation or $500 donation. or you got a laptop you want to give away, we can do some teacher giveaway. It's the small things that go a long way when it comes to our teachers. And so we'll be doing more events like that. And if there's an opportunity for you all to partner and even come and attend and show support, I know that the employees, the teachers, and all will greatly appreciate that.
Mr. President, shake that knee.
Yes, sir. Pastor Green got it, right?
Good morning. My name is Rosemary Green, the co-pastor of Amazing Grace Church, and also a member of the Association of Christian Ministers of Clayton County. And first of all, again, thank you, Dr. Beasley, and also those men and women who have been committed to educating our students for many years, who I know are so grateful to have you at the helm. Back in the early 90s, I had the opportunity to serve as the chairperson of the Clayton County Commission on Children and Youth. And one of the initiatives that we were able to get going was to work with the Clayton County school system. One of the assistant superintendents at the time, Margaret Maynors, worked with me, and also the president of Clayton State College, who was Dr. Skinner at the time. And we were able to sit down and to come up with a plan whereby we had every rising middle school student, the ones that were going from middle school to high school, the spring before they went to high school, we actually transported them over to Clayton State College. And during the school year, my thing was, without a vision, the people perish. So let's help give these students a vision. So we actually not on the same day, but during the several days, we transported them over there during the school day so that they could see students actually in a classroom. And then we came back in Spivey Hall, and they had a mini concert that was put on by the students who were music majors there at the college. And we had a question and answer period with Dr. Skinner, who was the president at the time. And I just felt like that was such a remarkable and just an encouraging thing to do, giving them a vision of something right here in the community. I know the people in here would not be amazed, but there are so many students who've never been on a college campus. When you say college, to them that's a different world on TV, and they don't realize what we have right here. My objective was not for everybody to go to Clayton State, but for them to get a vision of themselves going to a college. And so it would be my hope that we could do something like that in the future.
Well, let me share with you, Ms. Green and all, we have an initiative right now called Gear Up. I don't know if you've heard about it, but if you could go to our website, we have a web page dedicated to Gear Up. All of our 8th graders are participating in this initiative, and we're doing exactly what you just said. They're all going to Clayton State University. They're participating at different times, clearly, of the year. But we'll be working with this cohort over the next 4 to 5 years, because the work is to get as many accepted into some type of post-secondary option as possible, to get them over those ACT, SAT hurdles, to get them over the AccuPlacer hurdles, so they can participate in dual enrollment, to increase their outcomes on their end-of-course assessments, and to really help them land successfully and have a successful first year of college. And so that's called our Gear Up grant, and we're one of a few metro districts that are participating, and we are doing it with not a small group, but all of our current, they started last year 7th graders at the end of the school year, and so they're all 8th graders now, and we'll continue with this work over the next several years. So if you would just go to the website, we set up a web page just so our parents can be informed as to what the Gear Up is all about. We're doing exactly what you described there.
My name is Eric Bell. I'm a member of the Clayton County Christians Ministers Association. And my question is, what kind of work is being done to partner with the airport and the students to really get them geared up in training for aviation, stewards, pilots, maintenance, mechanics, all in that realm of transportation, and specifically in the airport realm?
Well, that's a great question, and you should know that that is an area that we identified immediately as a gap. And so currently we are working this year planning for the implementation of 2 aviation programs, one at North Clayton High School and one at Morrow High School, starting the fall of next year. And when we say aviation, that could include anything from being a pilot, to being a mechanic, to being on the front end of customer service, to being an entrepreneur, someone who serves in a stewardess, a steward or stewardess, and all of the careers that are basically in aviation. So you will see next year officially, it's already been approved, aviation programs at 2 high schools. We're also looking at implementing a college and career academy. You've heard of some other counties with college and career academies. So we are working and we're having discussions. We had one with our board at the board retreat at the end of September. Our goal is in the next FLOS is to identify funds for the building of a Clayton County College and Career Academy, where we have certain areas, career pathways housed at this college and career academies. We have school-based enterprises. Some of the programs that we've discussed include not only aviation, but some athletic programs, and I can't officiating is one. We want our kids, you all know officiating is a pretty good income, don't you? Officiating is one. We want our students, there are several programs. As a matter of fact, we met with the some of the business community, and we met with Clayton State, Atlanta Metro, and Atlanta Technical, and they are all on board. And so we're in the initial planning stages of developing and building and creating a college and career academy. And we'll get Jada to send to the group just some of our conversations about what programs we will be considering for this college and career academy. But that's going to really be a magnet for our community. You know, families want to see that their young people have options and that their young people can be trained in areas that will land them into some post-secondary option, whether it's going to college, going into the workforce, etc. And don't forget about our firefighter pathways. You all know about our firefighter pathways. At Mundy's Mill High School, we started this year, in Drew High School. We've got young people right now, today, being trained to leave high school making $40,000 a year as firefighters. Right now in our school system. So we're closing those gaps, and just more to come. If there's a job that will exist in the future that our kids can make a good living off of, we want to ensure that we have opportunities available in our school district to at least begin preparation for taking full advantage of those careers. I think Pastor's hand's been up for some time, so let's give Pastor here a chance to share.
I'm Leon Beeler. I'm with the Forest Park Ministers Association. And some things, in the last 30 days, I've been approached by a couple of parents with some serious problems. And my advice to them was to come and perhaps get an opportunity to talk to you. And they were telling me that they were not able to get through to you. And so I said, well, write a letter. I'm going to talk with one of the parents this Thursday concerning what has happened. And the reason why I was doing that, because they wanted to go to the news media, and I'm not going to talk about what the problem was, but it was very serious. And so I was wondering, is there a mechanism in place for us pastors, when we hear of these issues, to be able to come to you or to someone that you would designate to see if we cannot diffuse this before it gets into the news media?
Well, that's a great question, and just so you know, that's exactly why we have Dr. Simpson, Dr. Smith, and all of these. Sometimes people want to come straight to the superintendent, and you all know that's not sustainable.
Right.
And that's why I tell parents, give us a chance. You have assistant superintendents. I see Ms. Johnson here. You have assistant superintendents, and all of these people directly supervise schools. And this is where you all can help me out, because sometimes people want to come straight to the superintendent.
Right.
I can't meet with everybody.
This is true.
And if I had to meet with everybody, why do I have all these competent people?
Right.
And so I need people to understand that there's a protocol.
Okay.
And so they start with the principal. If they don't get anywhere, they should always go to the assistant superintendent. If the assistant superintendent is unresponsive, that's why we have Dr. Simpson, the deputy superintendent.
Okay.
And then he reports to me.
Okay.
And so if it comes to me, my question is going to always be, did you all handle this?
Okay.
And you just have to help people understand, because sometimes they want to go from 0 to 10, and I can't be effective as a leader.
Right.
If all I'm doing is doing their job, what I need them to do. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
And so if we can help everybody, but to your question, is there a mechanism? You all, just like you receive emails from us, you can send us an email, or can you get Dr. Beasley to give me a call, or someone, here's an issue, and we'll get it to the right person to get addressed. One thing we are trying to be, and I think we're doing a pretty good job at, is being responsive. I think sometimes people think, I want the superintendent. If I can't get the superintendent, then they're not being responsive. That is not the case. Just because they can't get to me, that doesn't mean I'm not responsive. Even if they email me, I will always reply and say, I've copied this person or these persons to address this matter. Thank you for sharing. They will be addressing the matter. We are always responsive.
Okay, I'm going to ask them tomorrow who they have spoken to, and then we'll follow up with that. But I don't want them to go to the news media first. I'd rather for them to go through the process, and we'll see who they've talked to.
But you know, and I think it's a part of a culture too, and I say this, I guess this could be me. Going to the media is not going to get you an appointment with me anyway.
Right.
I'm just not that type person, and they need to understand that. That's not going to get you a seat or not a seat. Doing what's right and following the protocol will get you there.
Right.
And so I'm not going to, I don't think we should create and support a culture where people use the media to bully us in violating the protocol. I'm going to follow the protocol. I have hired people to do a job, and I want people to respect that protocol, because that shows respect for who they are, it shows respect for our community, it shows respect for our children,
right.
And it shows respect for the work that we're trying to do to move our community in the right direction.
Well, if we don't help people that come to us,
I agree.
Go to through the right mechanism, then they're going to use whatever they can.
They will.
So that's the reason why I wanted to bring this out. I don't know if you other pastors are getting anyone coming to you looking for some answers to things, and I think this is, we are. So we need to know that this is what we're going to do. We're going to go first, then to next, and then we'll do whatever we can so that this doesn't give Clayton County another black eye.
And you know what helps? If they have a concern, it helps to just put it in writing. One reason I like for people to put concerns in writing is because when we have to address them with the principals, it's not a Dr. Beasley issue. This is a concern that needs to be addressed. If they can't put it in writing, of course, they can use the telephone or come to the central office, but we have people in place to address those issues. I can tell you this. Our team knows we need to respond. Right. And if they're not getting a response, that would be a concern to me. So my question is, who have they gone to? And if they've gone to that person, why hadn't they gotten a response?
Okay.
They may not get what they want,
but at least a response.
But they will get a response.
We know what happens there. I have asked one of the churches that are with our organization to give me a report on what they were doing at the school, and it was very interesting because it addressed some of the things that you were speaking of. Now, I'm going to ask Joe if he would read this. This is very small writing, and I can't even read it with my glasses on. So if you want, can you say that? Okay, thank you.
And this is what the Rock Church, in partner with Forest Park Middle School, morning security and fellowship with students, ensuring the students enter in an orderly fashion, maintain proper behavior in halls and cafeteria, make sure they're encouraged and prepared for the day. Then they had a Wednesday morning prayer, invited people to come to that, and they had athletic support for the football team, and there's a list of things they were doing in there. And then boys mentorship, a 4-week program that they were offering. So this is just some of the ways they were helping with that.
Excellent. All of those are very good things. Good feedback. Very good.
Apologize for the oversight. My name is Darrell Smith. I'm the Assistant Area Director with Fellowship of Christian Athletes for Clayton County. One of the things that I'm curious to know is that as myself and certain churches that partner with us are really pouring into the athletes and the coaches, we're really starting to see a strong hurt and emotional from a lot of the students. I do know that Forest Park has community in schools, but being that I'm not a native Clayton County, what are some other resources where I can send a student to get counseling, to speak to someone? Because now I'm starting to see that there's some really deep issues, which, as you said earlier, translate into character, which translate into the studying.
That's a great question. And remember this, you've heard of the term, and hopefully you have, system of care is available. And so that's an external partner that we partner with to provide some support, if you will. It could be mentoring, it could be family counseling, it could be individual counseling, it could be access to resources or connection to other resources that will help mitigate some of those situations. So system of care is an option that we know our board basically supports and provides resources to impact our families in a positive way. I think that there's an opportunity for us to continue to utilize system of care a bit more. They're available, they're being utilized, but I think that they're, again, underutilized relative to those additional resources and supports that are available, as you described, when students and others find themselves experiencing some trauma or other issues beyond the classroom. So system of care, you can always, you can start with the principal or just go speak to the school counseling department, and the counselors know the process for ensuring that the students receive the referral or are referred to system of care.
Okay, I just wanted to respond. I really don't want this to get lost in concerning being able to have contact with all the schools. What happens is that, you know, in everything there are successes. There are some schools that principals are responding great, and the schools are responding great. But as a whole, it's not happening. I personally had an experience even this week with trying to do some things that we had talked about concerning contact with the schools on a faith-based measure. And sure, we have some successes, but if we're talking about a total body and we're wanting to have the success in Clayton County, let's not really just discard the fact that all school principals aren't on board or don't know about what's going on, because that's a fact. For instance, one principal that I've talked to recently, he wasn't aware of the faith-based connection, the partnership. What he responded to me was, oh yeah, we had a meeting one time and it was about a year ago, but I don't know anything else about it. Now this was coming directly from a principal. So what I'm saying is that there is successes, but at the same time, there is some areas that we do have to cover. And that's what I don't want to get lost.
And let me respond by saying I appreciate that, and we don't want it to get lost either. But when you say whole, You just told me you spoke to one principal out of 62. It helps to know the school so we can direct our energies to that one principal. But yes, we probably need to have conversations with all. But what I don't want, as I just shared with with another group, I don't want one situation to paint a picture for all situations. And we have to make sure that we don't do that. I want to make sure we acknowledge the principals that are doing it the right way. But if we have principals that are uninformed or that need some support, I need to know who they are so we can provide support to those principals.
And let me clarify, it's not just one. That was one I said that I had an experience with recently that had made that statement. But again, there's a number. We partnership with a number of different schools throughout the community. Like I said, I've been in this community for a whole lot of years, working directly in the community.
So all I ask is that you tell me which schools that we're having the barriers so we can figure out what they need, the support they need to navigate those barriers.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. I just want that to be known that there is some that just aren't participating, probably just because of the fact that they're just not aware of what's going on. So my thing is that let's just acknowledge that, and we do have great successes. I know there's great successes in Forest Park. I've talked to Dr. Beeler often about it, so we're aware of those successes. So again, there is more work to do, and we just don't want to get lost in thinking that, it's all covered, where in actuality it's not.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Reverend Ezekiel Powers. I'm an associate member at Mount Lamar AME Church here in Clayton County. And my wife, Esther K. Powers, is the pastor there at this time. First of all, let me thank you for this opportunity of being here and for this type of forum. I think it's very good for the community. We have started a mentoring program, and it's headed into its third year of middle school and high school. But we have had some problems, I guess, of getting students to this program. So we've been putting out signs. So I don't know if it's a code issue where you have to put the signs, but we have placed them in front of some middle schools and high schools. And we go back and that they are, have been removed. So I'd like to ask that question today. Is there a code that we have to go through to put the signs out? If you would know that answer, or do we have to go directly to the principal?
I'll let you talk to Mr. Thompson, but if you put the
raise your
signs in
hand,
the
Mr.
grass, they probably move the sign and cut the
All right,
grass.
I'll talk to Mr. Thompson. Great.
High campaign season, if they are within a certain fee, I don't know that information right offhand, but they will code enforcement will remove those signs.
And let's not forget, we want the grass to be cut, so they will move signs out of the way if they. Well, I don't think they're trying to do that.
Okay, we'll take Dr. Green and then we'll allow Dr. Beasley to wrap up.
Mine's not a question. It's just a comment. Dr. Beasley, we want to thank you for the fantastic job that you're doing. We've been in this community a long time, and I've never seen the enthusiasm, I've never seen the level of expectation. We've been praying for years that God would send us someone with all the attributes that you have. And God has answered our prayer. And we are overjoyed. And I just want you to know that we're glad you're here. We're behind you. As Bishop Dukes has said and others, we're here to support you. I believe you're on the right track. And I believe our children can do really well. Many of us came up in lower income homes, but we had parents that demanded that we study. When I got home, the first thing I had to do the first 4 hours was study. And my parents demanded that. I had teachers, and my wife and I talked about that. I call them battle axes because they demanded excellence in that classroom. It was unacceptable. They didn't tolerate foolishness, and they demanded that we get a good education. And being that I'm of this color, they said, said, boy, you have to be twice as good. That's what they said to me. You got to study twice as hard, because in the society we live in, you've got to be able to perform with excellence. So we thank you, we applaud you, we're with you, and we want you to know we appreciate all this work you're doing. It's the best I've ever seen, and I think we ought to give Dr. Beasley a hand.
Thank you, Pastor Green. And just know that we're committed to hearing the concerns and working with our team to continue to improve. We understand the process of continuous improvement, and we're headed in the right direction. Clearly, you've given us some feedback today that we'll take, have conversations with our team, principals and all, and provide support toward making it better for all of our students. Just remember, our focus is to ensure that our 54,000, almost 55,000, we are seeing an uptick in enrollment. Almost 55,000 students get the best education here at Clayton County Public Schools. I am so pleased to see the expanded participation, and please, you all hang on in here with us. The next invite, please come. If you can't come, send a rep and let us know what's working, what's not working, and you have my word. My team, this team, we will do our best to ensure that we're working collaboratively with our entire community, doing what's good for all of our children in order to produce that high-performing school district that this community deserves. Thank you all for being here today. Thanks to our staff, Chief Treywick. I didn't introduce him, but you all know Chief Treywick over there, Safety and Security. I think we've introduced everyone else. Thanks everybody for being here on today. And I know that there are some more faith-based leaders out there. Please find someone who's not here today. They may not know, and bring them with you the next time. We want to make sure that we saturate our community with these partnerships. Thanks everybody. Thank you.